Some albums didn't just shake up the charts, they shocked the system. Every band, boycott, and backlash only proved one thing. Hip-hop was never just music, it was rebellion with a beat. N.W.A, straight out of Compton. Yo, it didn't just drop, it detonated. In 1988, Straight Outta Compton ripped through America like a blast from the streets. 5 young men from L.A. turned microphones into weapons, using beats and rhymes to describe a world most people only saw in the evening news. Then came the song that changed everything, Fuck the Police. Yo, it was raw, fearless, and way too honest for comfort. The FBI sent a warning letter to their label. Police unions across the country protested. MTV even banned the music video entirely. The source and rap pages kept the fire alive. Word spread through mixtapes, swap meets, and neighborhood sound systems, unfiltered, unstoppable. To the system, it sounded like a threat. To the streets, it sounded like freedom. N.W.A didn't invent anger, they just amplified it. Their music wasn't fantasy, it was a field report from a war zone of poverty, profiling, and survival. Every verse shouted what the headlines refused to print. The backlash didn't silence them, it only crowned them. But rebellion wasn't done spreading. Next, it would reach the halls of power themselves. 2 Live Crew, as nasty as they wanna be. Before streaming, before parental warnings meant anything, one rap group found themselves in an actual courtroom for rhyming about sex. In 1989, 2 Live Crew released As Nasty as They Wanna Be, loud, explicit, and unapologetic. But what started as party music quickly turned into a national panic. Florida prosecutors, cause naturally it's Florida, called it obscene. Stores was raided. Record shop owners were handcuffed for selling CDs. The group's concerts were shut down mid-performance, and pretty soon the rappers themselves were facing charges. It became the first album in US history legally declared obscene. News channels replayed courtroom footage, and conservative groups used it as proof that hip-hop was corrupting America's youth. In a country that worships freedom, they was on trial for words. The courtroom became a circus of moral outrage, preachers, parents, politicians, everybody arguing about what should be heard. And through it all, 2 Live Crew fought back with another album, banned in the USA, turning censorship itself into a beat. When the dust had settled, they won. The case didn't just protect the rap group, it rewrote the limits of the First Amendment. But even when rappers wasn't arrested, the verdict was still waiting in the court of public opinion. Eminem, the Marshall Mathers LP. Alright, Eminem didn't just poke the bear, he stared straight at it, laughed, and made a record about it. When the Marshall Mathers LP dropped in 2000, it felt less like an album and more like an emotional explosion. Part therapy session, part shock art. He mocked pop stars, cursed politicians, and turned his private chaos into public spectacle. Songs like Kim and Stan blurred the line between confession and performance, forcing listeners to ask, yo, is this real or is this just rage and rhyme? On forums like early MTV News and Rolling Stone, fans and critics couldn't agree if he was a genius or a menace. The backlash was instant. Women's rights groups, politicians, and even the wife of the US vice president condemned him. Canada debated banning his concerts altogether. Talk shows and tabloids treated him like a national crisis wrapped in headphones. But so did the sales. That album shattered records, over 1.7 million copies in a week, proving controversy doesn't kill art, it fuels it. For every protest sign, there was a million more headphones pressed tighter. Eminem didn't follow the rules of fame. He rewrote them in permanent marker. But controversy wasn't always loud. Sometimes it whispered through pain and despair. XXXTentacion, 17. For a generation raised on depression memes and SoundCloud beats, XXXTentacion was a mirror. Cracked, but honest. When 17 dropped in 2017, it wasn't about flexing wealth or fame. It was about the weight of existence, a lo-fi confession written by somebody fighting demons both internal and external. In a time when platforms like SoundCloud and YouTube gave kids a voice outside the industry, X became the symbol of raw, unfiltered emotion. His music didn't sound polished, it sounded real, like pain recorded in real time. His voice quivered through songs like Jocelyn Flores and Revenge, short, haunting, and painfully real. For millions of young listeners, it felt like somebody had finally got their unspoken thoughts into words. But outside the music, there was darkness. Real-life criminal charges, allegations of abuse, the question that haunted fans and critics alike. Can you separate the artist from the art? Spotify pulled his music from playlists under its hateful conduct policy, only to face backlash for selective morality. X's legend became a reflection of a generation caught between empathy and ethics, loving what hurts love. Now his music opened a conversation about pain, but also about accountability. But long before the internet made outrage viral, artists were already battling political systems face to face. Nas, Untitled. Now before the album even dropped, Nas had already started a war, not with beats but with a word. He announced the title that America still flinches at. And now suddenly, record labels panicked, politicians barked, and news anchors debated whether art had gone too far. But Nas wasn't just chasing shock value. He was holding up a mirror, forcing the country to stare at a history that it keeps on trying to blur. Now that was in 2008, the dawn of social media discourse, when blogs like Hip Hop DX and So amplified every opinion, and cable networks like Fox News weaponized fear. He said, if they can say it, why can't I own it? And that single question burned through boardrooms and headlines. When corporate pressure forced him to release the album Untitled, it didn't feel like defeat, it felt like strategy. By removing the word, Nas made the silence even louder. Tracks like Sly Fox tore into media manipulation, while his protest outside Fox News turned hip-hop into public education. Nas didn't just rap, he lectured with rhythm and rebellion. He wasn't asking America to listen, he was demanding it. And while Nas fought through politics, another artist turned his own city's chaos into an anthem. Now if y'all respect the grind and the message, hit that like, let the algorithm know real stories still matter to people. Ice Cube, Death Certificate. So when Ice Cube dropped Death Certificate in '91, it didn't sound like an album, it sounded like a warning. Months later, Los Angeles burned, stores looted, streets on fire, and headlines calling it chaos. But Cube had already written the script. He wasn't predicting violence, he was documenting pressure. The kind that builds for generations when voices get ignored and anger's got nowhere left to go. Death Certificate was split into two sides, the death side and the life side, a concept album dissecting America's racial sickness with surgical precision. Yo, tracks like Black Korea got him banned in the UK and Oregon, while politicians called him dangerous. But yo, the danger wasn't in the lyrics, it was in the truth that they carried. Cube wasn't trying to comfort anybody. He was holding up a mirror to a country that didn't like what it saw. Don't blame the messenger, his music seemed to say. Blame the message you've been avoiding. Death Certificate became more than music. It was a post-mortem on America's promises. And when one revolution cooled, another sound lit up. Funk-fueled, smoke-filled, and unapologetic. Dr. Dre, The Chronic. When the ashes of Los Angeles was still warm, Dr. Dre gave the city a new pulse. The Chronic was a rhythmic renaissance more than merely an album. Out of burned storefronts and shattered trust came a sound that was smoother than rebellion yet just as powerful. Lowriders rolled, bass lines hit with such ferocity the rearview mirrors bounced and smoke curled in the air. Smooth, defiant, and sun-drenched. This was G-Funk. Dre used funk beats and mesmerizing synths to transform the mayhem of the riots into California cool. Death Row Records was born out of this tension, a label that turned street anthems into cultural landmarks. From Nothing But a J-Thing to Let Me Ride, Dre made it sound effortless, but every note was layered with history, the sound of a community reclaiming pride after chaos. Beneath the glass, though, the message remained unvarnished. This was life after neglect, ambition derived from survival. The Chronic didn't preach, it vibed, yet every single beat carried the weight of a community rebuilding itself. Dre didn't just build a new sound, he built the soundtrack of defiance, and in doing so, he proved that hip-hop could rule radio without losing its edge. But hip-hop wasn't only fighting systems, sometimes it was fighting itself. Tupac, Tupacalypse Now. Now before the legend, before the murals and headlines, there was just Tupac, a young man with a notebook full of fury and truth. Tupacalypse Now wasn't designed to entertain, it was meant to sting. Every verse felt like a confrontation. Police brutality, poverty, broken systems, things most politicians prefer to ignore. Tupac rapped like a man on trial, not for crimes but for daring to speak. Songs like Trapped and Brenda's Got a Baby weren't fantasies, they were field notes from forgotten streets. Then reality caught up. When a teenager claimed Tupac's music inspired him to shoot a state trooper, the controversy exploded. Vice President Dan Quayle stepped in, condemning the album, saying it has no place in our society. But Tupac didn't back down. He argued he wasn't promoting violence, he was exposing the conditions that created it. I just said what they wouldn't show, he once said, and that was the problem. Before the myth, before the martyr, there was an artist who just wanted the truth to hurt. Tupac's controversy wasn't a scandal, it was a warning shot, one that echoed long after he was gone. Every controversy left a scar, but also a story, proof that every time hip-hop was silenced, it just came back louder than ever before.